Lois Drumheller.
Hello. It's been more than 2 months since members of Sustainable Monroeville have been before this council to submit our comments and our well-referenced, fact-based recommendations on oil and gas. We submitted to you to ask for your guidance, but we're trying to guide you at the same time, the ordinance that will eventually need to be passed for safe oil and gas operations. So far, this municipality has achieved a conditional use on zoning on your table 201 to amend that for our oil and gas operations in the M2 industrial zone. That we know was done, that we appreciate. Nothing further has been established, though, as to how this shall be done. And we asked already at the presentation of that, of giving you the electronic copy, of trying to get that to the Planning Commission. We asked at that point that we could meet to discuss further with local government agents involved in establishing this specific criteria for oil and gas. This is why it was important last month to find out that the Planning Commission was also given our recommendations, so we're glad about that. To do nothing further, though, at this point leaves the municipality, frankly, vulnerable to unsafe criteria and practices with just the Table 201 conditional use. Nothing to go along with it, stating hours of operation, what type of pre- and post-testing, any type of hazmat conditions, any specific things to test for, either in the volatile organic compounds or the water below the surface, and whether or not there's any type of mine drainage, and all those things, and in addition to that, the people who live in that vicinity, hopefully not too far from that. We also know that when you did propose, the zoning ordinance last month, and of course this was withdrawn from consideration. Before you decided to withdraw it, we know that this was reviewed by the Allegheny County Economic Development, and they did review it and they did make recommendations. Such things as the need to define what the term well meant. Because in the accompaniment to 1443 is Ordinance 2437, which really does address oil wells, but it doesn't really specify anything that is an update of that term. So they said themselves, the county said to you, please define this. And then they also pointed out some other language that did not make sense. So there is much work ahead. I think everybody knows that, for council, for the Planning Commission, and maybe not in that order, but to evaluate and to recommend what we do outside of just having a Table 201 change. So right now, we'd like to establish, as a group of individuals, our grassroots organization has been up here. Sustainable Monroeville would like to meet with whatever parties for further discussion and where this should begin. I know everyone is moved up tonight's meeting because of priorities at the end of what would be your Thursday night meeting. But we want to leave you with the question, is it the opinion of this council that the Planning Commission would be that first stop? And we know you're getting ready to go to the ALOM, Allegheny League of Municipalities Conference. For all I know, because I did look at the tentative education topics, well, first of all, let me start with where we should start in terms of trying to work as a grassroots citizen group. Shall it be the Planning Commission? Shall it be?
I think the most appropriate would be for you to, either you or a representative of Sustainable Monroeville or a group of you, to set up a meeting with our municipal manager, Mr. Little. I think that'd be the best starting point.
And would this be to decide who the agents to meet with would be?
Or to discuss your ideas as far as formulating an ordinance.
Well, the guides that we gave to you, the 11-page document, should go pretty far into telling you where the guidance is coming from. For instance, that proposed ordinance that you withdrew for consideration had nothing on air quality measurement. And I can tell you that our friends in Westmoreland County have a citizens group. They may be a little larger because they've dealt with this issue for a lot longer period of time. And they have approached the county commissioners to see if part of their hazmat reaction to any blowouts, anything associated with the return of frac fluids in the process of oil and gas development, and release of what you can't see by the naked eye, but is volatile organic compounds. Any of those things that could be tested would be tested with a particular way of a canister. I think you have to think of a tube of blood that has a vacuum in it, and you withdraw, and it goes right into the vacuum. Part of the hazmat process can do that.
I ask you a question. Some of those issues
Shall
you're discussing, for example, blowout and the hazmat and so forth, isn't that addressed under the state law?
I don't know, is it?
I believe it is.
How so?
Pardon me?
How so?
What do you mean, how so?
How?
Well, the state has laws too against this.
And I'm assuming that you are referring to one in particular. Do you know which area this lies under? Because I do know that there are county plans, and probably Mr. Ratcher can
Well,
explain.
I can't cite it for you. However, if you'd be willing to look it up.
If
and
I'd be willing to look
think-
it up?
I would, I'm not the one that has an issue with it. You're the one that has the issue with it.
Well, Mr. Wills, I think maybe...
Is this in order?
Well, that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay,
pulling it
thank
back in. So, you've had your comment period, which, and I think you had some valuable information.
I've had some
If I could
questions,
just
too.
finish real quick.
Yeah, I've had
You've
some
had your
questions.
comment period, and, but I think, yeah, the best first step would be for you to meet with Mr. Little, and perhaps if you can coordinate with one of these other organizations to come with you, and just so, I mean, we're willing to take all the information we can get.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you may find some of this out at the conference. The ALUM conference has a tentative topic. I'd like to ask whether or not, well, first of all, normally 2 members of council went, and I'm not sure if it's only 2 members of council, to ask somebody to report back on this. How many people actually are going? Numbers, 1, 2?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
How many people are going to the ALUM concert, the
Yes,
I am.
conference?
5.
yeah,
I am not.
I
5?
am.
I am.
Okay, there are 5 members. Okay, this is the reason why you didn't have a quorum. Okay. Well, would you happen to know whether or not oil and gas on this very important the conference that it involves every municipality in Allegheny County, Allegheny County being the circle that's being encroached by the oil and gas industry, whether any of that information is coming up in topic on oil and gas? Have you seen where that will come up? Do you have the intention of bringing it up if it doesn't?
Well, bring it up where?
At the conference.
Where at?
There's classes. There's,
Yeah, there are classes. There's also groups of people who are on panels, and I'm assuming that you have a lot of interaction there. I know there's a lot of social interaction. There would be plenty of time to bring this up. Whether or not it's the official way, you're there with everybody in the county, and it's the perfect time to bring it up.
You're absolutely right. It's a good topic to speak about, and that's the perfect place to talk about it because there's a lot of lawmakers there and a lot of people from different communities that can also have insight to these types of things. But to answer your initial question, I think the best step for Sustainable Monroeville would be to set up a meeting with Mr. Little, and like I said, if you could bring an agent from one of these other organizations, that'd be very much appreciated.
Sure, I
Great.
would do.
Thank you.
I would
And that's
suggest to
your
do that
5
in this next month. I think it's a little premature in this
We're at 9
month.
minutes. We have a lot of people that want to speak. You're at 9 minutes, and
And would you do
Thank you
one
for
more
your time.
thing? And would you bring us back a report on what you may find out on the topic of
We
oil
can
and gas
definitely-
from your conference?
we can do that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.